Okay, now it looks like everything's working. If you see this, if you see me talking or you hear me talking, let me know in the chat so that I can see that somebody's here. I'm just looking at different settings. Let's go to my chat window. No, I'm not seeing anything there yet. Let's go to a different screen. Let me go to live. Let's do. Am I live? Ah, you. There is something. There's someone there. Oh, cool, cool. I assume. Let's see. Do I hear myself? Let's turn up some volume here. Ah, yes. Okay. There is something. There's someone there. Cool, cool. So, hey there. My name is Matt Williams. I make video content here on YouTube. I tend to focus a lot on artificial intelligence, mostly local AI tools. Oh, I have. Cool. Thank you, Abdul. Yeah, I focus mostly on Olama, and mostly I'd say 99.999% of the time it's Olama related content, and I occasionally dabble on some other things. There was recently a video about Super Whisper specifically on the Mac, and got lots of comments about other tools from other companies that do interesting tools as well for doing that speech to text kind of flow. Let's see. Let me go over here. Nice, nice. There's a few users here. Nice. Thank you. I do have a low bit rate, lower than recommended. Always frustrating. I think I forgot to do something. Let's unplug my network connection and see if I can reach this around. Let's plug that in and see if I can get a wired connection, which is always better than my Wi-Fi in this room. Let's see. If I disconnect Wi-Fi, hopefully the good. And let's see if any comments are good. No, okay, cool. So small models are where it's at. Yes, I do agree. Small business could afford a small, locally hosted, and finely tuned model and avoid paying zillions to AWS. Absolutely. I love the small models. I get so excited at, there's so many people on the Discord, on the Olama Discord, that get excited about like the 405 billion parameter model. Come on. I mean, I have some pretty good resources at home, but I can't handle 405 billion parameters. And the idea of paying for to host it on AWS or Google or anyone else, I mean, that's a big model. That's going to be expensive. So yeah, I don't understand why people get it. It's exciting to see what's there, but for actually using it, no way. But new stuff does come out every day, and I thought I'm going to experiment with an idea of can I pull together some news items that have happened in the last day and just kind of go through it. I've briefly glanced at it, and so we're kind of going to go through it together. I pulled the things that look most interesting, but yeah. So well, how much RAM would it take to run 405 billion parameters? So I think so with a 32-bit without quantizing, so looking at the original 32-bit floating point weights, then I think that will take about 1600 gigs of VRAM to run, assuming it's all in the GPU. But if we drop that down to 16 floating point or to 8, so 8 would be roughly, it comes out to like 400, maybe 420 gigabytes. But 4-bit quantization is often just as good. It's a little bit worse, but not a whole lot worse. And there we're looking at probably about 200 gigabytes of VRAM. I think. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a lot. And I have a MacBook Pro right here that I'm running that is 64 gigs, and so I can do a 70 billion parameter model at 4-bit quantization, which means I need 40, 50 gigs or so. And I have 64, so that works. But it's super slow. So there's how much VRAM, but also there's just how fast can it process. And so yeah, that's crazy. So it's amazing. It's an amazing thing that they released. I just don't know how many people really care about it. All right, so let me go to this. As I say, I pulled together some news that I thought was interesting, and I thought I might just go through it. Let's see. How do I make this screen a little bit bigger? No, live chat. I'll just have to keep looking down every now and then. Oh, I can pull this guy out. Put that over there. And make that really small. Cool. I don't know what's up with this clear and get overlay URL, but that's fine. Maximize this. And this is I've just got an easel set up in Arc browser. This Arc browser is the browser I really like. I've used I think it became publicly available maybe 6 months to a year ago. I probably was using it. I think I first found out about it when it must have been a few months before I was the host or the co-host with Brett Fisher for his DevOps and Docker Talk podcast. So it's got to be 18 months, maybe 2 years ago that I started using Arc. I really love it. But one of the major features of the Arc browser is it's not just a browser, but also this easel or canvas that you can very easily pull items from a web page and put it into this easel. It's kind of a nice way of like flipping through all the things all the news items that I thought were interesting. And one of the things that I saw, so I'm kind of looking through my RSS feed. So I have RSS feeds that I subscribe to that show all the things that I care about. Plus, there's ones that generate a lot of content like Hacker News and some other places. And I thought it was interesting that there were a few mentions, a few different news stories that came up that were dealing with code review and how there are these new companies coming up that are focused on using AI for code review. In fact, there's this one called CodeRabbit, and CodeRabbit took $16 million in venture funding from smaller VCs. Where did it say who they were? 16 million Series A funding round led by CRV with participation from Flex Capital and Engineering Capital. I've never heard of CRV. Who is CRV? Not the Honda CRV. Probably not Charles River. Oh no, Charles River Ventures. So Boston-based VC with these folks. Oh, so they did early in Airtable, Vercel. Cool. Oh wait, Charles River, but they're based in San Francisco and Palo Alto. I wonder what the Charles River connection is. Anyway, so they invested in CodeRabbit, and CodeRabbit. Why am I not seeing the? Okay, there we go. CodeRabbit is this tool for doing code reviews, AI-driven code reviews, which I think is such a cool idea. I think a lot of people have used, if you're using Twinny or Continue or any of the other local AI kind of plugins for VS Code, this is one of the kind of the things that you do is you select a bunch of code and you say, tell me what this code does or tell me how to make this better. But to have it automatically, not just when you do a chat, but to automatically go through all your code and find the things that worth calling out. That's a pretty interesting, and have a UI around it. That's pretty cool. I think this is really neat. I assume they are not doing this using a local. Actually, I looked into it briefly. I think they have a GitHub. Or maybe they don't. Where are they based? They are based. I don't see anything about where they are based. This is the about page, but they do not say where they are. I could make a assumption based on nothing. So I don't know. But anyway, it looks like an interesting idea, focusing on the AI code review, and maybe it's something worth looking at. The fact that it's probably not using local models means it's a little bit of a tangent from what I typically do. But that said, I've been very excited about SuperMaven, which is also not locally hosted for as an AI code assistant. But when I saw that, I saw somebody else also mention. I think I might have seen this in Hacker News, and one of the comments I think there was pointing to Doublebot. And so Doublebot is another AI coding assistant, but I think I saw that it was doing code reviews as well. It's trying to be a little bit faster and more powerful than Copilot. In fact, here's a Copilot versus Double compared, and just showing that it does it. It's a more complete tool. I find that VS Code from Unwalled Garden. I find that VS Code does a good job of identifying errors. I can then click Explain in Copilot and get help fixing my issue. Not quite the same as this, but it's been helpful. Yeah, so regarding, what was the name of that tool? CodeRabbit. Yeah, I think doing that interactive conversation with Copilot looking at your code is great. But what CodeRabbit is doing is seems to be something that you could add to your CI/CD pipeline. So as you're doing your automated checks, maybe it automatically goes through and finds all the things that might need to get updated. I think. I'm not sure if this is something that a user interactively works with or is generated and maybe your reviews come to your email box or at least you're notified. Oh, it looks like you can just chat with it as well, but you can receive smart reports. Um, Jira issue validation. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Linear and Jira issue validation. It definitely has some neat things that are probably worth looking into. But then I saw a article on Martin Fowler website, martinfowler.com, by this woman, Brigitte Buchler. Um, uh, and it just goes through how she onboarded to a legacy code base with the help of AI. She found an open source project called Bomni, which is some sort of medical records tool, open source medical record something. Um, I don't know what the MRS stands for. But how did she go through figuring out what is this code base and how to work with it? And so the first thing she did was create a RAG environment, a RAG system, which looked through the entire Bomni wiki and was able to ask questions about what is HI type, which is health information type, what is FHIR, and she was able to find those answers very quickly. So working with RAG, but then she also took a look at this code understanding product called Bloop, and I never heard of Bloop, so this is Bloop, um, and it's another. What was interesting about this was that it's trying to do some of what CodeRabbit is doing, but also some of what all the other plugins are doing, Twinny or Continue or Copilot, but focused on. This page is focused on Java, but also focused on COBOL, which I thought was really interesting. Every now and then, I get a comment in my from on my YouTube, in YouTube comments saying, "Oh, this plugin or this model doesn't support COBOL." It's like, I don't know anything. I mean, I've seen COBOL in like history books. I don't know. I've never actually played around with. That's not true. I did play around with COBOL when COBOL.net came out. Um, when I was still working at Microsoft in education marketing, I remember the guy who hired me went on to. That was an interesting story. I got hired at Microsoft by this guy, George Kennard. I never actually worked with him, but I still remember his name. George Kennard hires me, but in the time between I leave my previous job and move to Seattle, move to Redmond, and start working at. I think actually the day I started working was his first day in another group. So the guy who hired me is no longer there, and nobody else seemed to know that I was starting. And so I'm this other guy says, I guess I'll be your manager. I'm like, okay. And whose name I've now forgotten. John, John, John. What was your last name, John? Anyway, George Kennard left. But George Kennard, his claimed not his one claim. He went into Visual Studio, but he was listed um, uh, as a thank you in the. So years and years ago, there was this video that went. it was probably one of the first like real viral hits, and it was Matt. I don't know what Matt's last name was, but Matt dancing, and he did this goofy little dance all over the world, and it was like picture after picture after or video after video after video of him doing the same goofy dance in all these places around the world, and he would stay with people, friends or just people we'd meet along the way. And what the person he stayed with in the Seattle area was this guy who originally hired me at Microsoft. So George Kennard. But anyway, I have no, oh yeah. So when I was in that role, I remember COBOL.net coming out and being a big deal with a lot of the folks that I had to deal with in education marketing. So education marketing dealt with K-12 and higher ed in the US for Microsoft. Anyway, weird tangent. Sorry. Hey Matt from Shivak Sharma. Thank you. Hi. Hi. So anyway, I thought this was pretty cool. This tool focused on, I don't know if it's just focused on Java and COBOL or just all the legacy languages. Is Ada included in there? Is what else is there? Fortran included in that? I don't know. But it's pretty interesting. I think this one was also one that is only on only using OpenAI. You can see that when you go to the GitHub repo. Down in the installation, it basically says enter in your OpenAI API key. But it was so interesting. Interesting thing to focus on Java and COBOL, at least on their webpage. Whoa! Hey, Unwalled Garden. I'm speechless every time somebody leaves like $1 or $5 or in your case 20. Thank you. I I I so appreciate when people do things like that. But I hope I hope I don't want to sound not appreciative because I'm so appreciative of whenever somebody does that, and it's so exciting. But um, but I also want other people who are seeing that, if you're inspired to that or think that you need to give as well, don't. Well, but don't. I don't. I don't do this because of that. Um, but I so love it when it does happen, and I'm so excited. So thank you. Um, your thorough. Thanks so much for all the Olama videos. Your thorough, hype-free explanations really help me, one, understand instead of just doing, and two, get things going without a lot of supplemental googling. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I'm kind of choking up. I think I need a little water, which thankfully I have near me and I don't have to go searching. Yesterday, I my office is in a room at the back of the garage, and I have to go out the garage into the garage and then into the laundry room to get into the rest of the house. I did that route yesterday to go get my water bottle, and I got it, and then I got distracted, and I did something else, and ended up making lunch, and finally get back to the room to continue working, and I realized, wait, and grab my water bottle. So I go back out to get my water bottle. I see my water bottle, but get distracted. I got distracted like 5 times to find this water bottle, and so that's why I get excited that I actually have my water bottle. All right, let's go on to next thing. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. I mentioned Super Maven is a tool that I personally use for um, uh, for AI as an AI plugin for VS Code. It looks like I've got another comment. Oops, let's close that. I was comparing models from OpenAI and Llama 3 for summarization, and turns out OpenAI models are just better for that stuff, especially if you prompt it just right. Yeah, I don't know. I think one of the problems or benefits with Olama, well, with summarization, it's there's a few things in there. If you're summarizing a long article, well, chances are it's a lot of tokens. It gets converted into tokens, and and that's probably some. Let's say it's 5,000 tokens. Llama 3 has a context size of, I think it's 132K. 132? Yeah. 132. Yeah. Um, that is the context size that's supported by Llama, that it was fine tuned on. But Olama, when you use it, it does not have that 132K context size. All models in Olama start at 2K, 2048 tokens, which is a lot smaller than 132K. And so the reason is originally the all the models, as soon as they would come out, it had an 8K context size. That model was published on Olama with an 8K context size. But when you have, it's hard to know in Olama or in any tool that uses Llama CPP for it to know how much memory is it going to need. There's a certain amount of memory it populates right away with the model itself, but the context doesn't get populated right away, is my understanding. And so the model may fit in how much memory you have, but then you start adding more and more context, and gradually it goes over that maximum memory size, and it just fails, and it fails in spectacular ways. Like my MacBook Pro will just reboot. It won't crash Olama. It just reboots. Now I don't know if that's still the case, but that was definitely the case for a long time. And so the founding team, I think I was still in the team for Llama at the time. We decided, okay, we're going to stick to 2K context for all models that are published on olama.com. But it's also really easy to change that. So in the when using the API, you can pass it a parameter of num_ctx, and that'll set the parameter size or the context size to whatever you want. Or in the model file, I don't think I tried doing it from the command line. So /set num_ctx and then the context size, but it didn't seem to take. And so you really want to use the model file. And so you just have a model file that says from Llama 3.1 or whatever model you're dealing with. And then parameter num_ctx, and then what is the context size in tokens. And it can't be 132K, it has to be 133, whatever 132K is in actual numbers. So you do that, and then Olama create whatever you want to call the model, and then you can run that, and then you'd have access to the full context. But if you don't have a lot of memory, you run the risk of rebooting your machine unexpectedly. And one of the benefits of using any sort of online model, hopefully they have access to a lot more memory, and so it can summarize large articles because this stuff requires a lot of memory. I've had I often will take Llama 3.1 and increase the context size to 8K or 16K because I know I'm good probably there. I'm not sure exactly how much memory 132K requires, but I'll I'll often increase it to whatever size I actually need and then put it in there. And then Llama 3.1 and other models that support that larger size do pretty good at summarization. The other thing you can do is chunk up the source text to find the logical breaks in the text and summarize smaller pieces, and then you have like 5 summaries, and then you summarize the summaries to come up with that summarization. And that's the way a lot of models used to do it before we had these massive context sizes. That said, sometimes it's easier to just use an online model for that. But there's also reasons not to ever do that, and that is a lot of these models will use your whatever text you provide in the prompt as well as the output to help make the model better. There's an article I'm going to cover about that in just a second. So let me scroll down here. I saw there were a couple of image generators that are based on Flux. One is at flux.ai. So you can go to, what is this? This is, what's the URL here? fluxai.dev, and try out the Flux. Although it seemed to take, this time it came up pretty quickly. But first time I tried, it took a long time. What should we do? Show a llama dancing disco in a nightclub. I don't know. With a drink in its hand. Say have hands as hoofs. Hoofs? Paw? I don't know. I'm just going to go with that. Waiting for a GPU to become available. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so, got it. From Shivak Sharma. I'll try that with next. Thanks. I generally use Brev, thanks to you, so I can expand memory there. Yeah, Brev, again, I haven't done a video about Brev. I keep... the founder, Nader, we were going to have a chat about what's going on there. He's been super busy, so brev.dev, I did a video that got them seen by a lot more people. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if they can credit me with this, but they got acquired by NVIDIA a few weeks ago. And so he's still been really busy with the acquisition time. Okay, looks like, okay, there's my llama with 4 legs and an arm. That's pretty fun. That is definitely a human. So the llama has eaten a human and his arm is stuck out. Yeah. Yeah, and drinking a drink. Cool. So that's that one. There's also this other one, Mindtown, mindtown.ai. And this one does seem to do. I did one a little earlier, which was llama walking down a dusty path in an Old West scene. What happens if I do the same? I can't remember what I did. Llama. Dancing to disco in a club holding a drink. Let's see what this one comes up with. Oh, sounds like my wife's home. I don't know if anything's happening. Maybe I have to. Okay. Oh, it went away. I don't know if anything's happening. Okay, well, I guess it's getting too popular. And then, of course, there was also in the news, X has their new image generator as part of Grok, or yeah, Grok. Um, and there's just, I mean, as with everything that comes out of X, it's a bit of a cluster fire. And they're generating all sorts of bizarre, bizarre images. Yeah, things that definitely have not happened. Obama with a knife to Biden, people doing bad things, lots of bad things. Let's give this a shot. Let's X and go here, and now I can ask my same question. What did I do? Llama dancing disco in a club, drinking something. Oh, oh, that is that's definitely a human hand. Yeah, hands. Hands are always hard. I feel like I'm still not going to be giving up Midjourney anytime soon. Sometimes I wonder if anything on X is anything on X even human generated. It's just bots and AI content everywhere. I can neither confirm nor deny that some of my content might be like that. Uh, yeah. All right, let's go back to my news feed. How long have we been going on? About 40 minutes. Okay, cool. Because there was this interesting article that somebody posted pretty recently, just going through OpenAI's LLM patents. This is from a couple of days ago, and talks about how they originally started doing trade secrets as opposed to patents, and now they've got more patents. And so it looks at what are those, what are the top 10 patents that they do have. So it's kind of an interesting article to, that only shows one of the 10. Where are the others? Oh, maybe it's just looking at one of them. It's looking at this one. There's also so another one for generating and editing text, one a few for images, and one for code, and integrating large language modes with an external API or GUI. So anyway, pretty interesting. Definitely worth taking a look at some more. Let's just move on a little bit because yes, here's the one I wanted to get to. Here's a great article from Associated Press on how to ensure that your conversations are not used for AI training. And then some of them let you opt out, but you do have to opt out rather than opt in. This was the there was a this didn't used to be possible, especially with OpenAI. Well, OpenAI was really one of the first out there, so they there was back in May of last year, a reporter was doing a story on Samsung, and they reached out to Samsung saying, "Can you tell me more about this particular internal project name?" And they were able to give lots of details about, including some details about what happened at a certain meeting. Can you, comment on that? And they were like, well, how did you know about you are not supposed to know about this? And it turned out that a month or some amount of time before, two developers inside of Samsung had one had given it like the meeting notes for an internal meeting on this project, asking it to summarize the meeting. And then somebody else did something about like an email or something like that, and that content ended up being part of the model. And so a journalist who was just looking for random stuff ends up finding it and asks the question. So here are, here's what to do. This AP article. I'll make sure I share. I'm sure I can share this. Oh, let's take a look at where this is. Yeah, that's a nasty looking URL. But here's what's required for Gemini. Go to the Gemini website, Activity tab, click the Turn Off button from the drop-down menu. Hold on. Yeah? Okay. Hi, Jade.
I came home and she's like, "Where's Dad?"
Yep. Okay. And then here's how to do it with Meta AI. Here's how to do it with Copilot. Oh, there's no way to opt out with Copilot. You're sharing it no matter what, unless you're using, I guess their enterprise options. Here's how to do it with OpenAI ChatGPT. Here's how to do it with Grok on Twitter. And here's how to do it with Claude. So pretty interesting. I've definitely seen the instructions before for ChatGPT. I hadn't seen the instructions for these other tools and definitely didn't know that you couldn't opt out for Copilot, which is pretty interesting. Goodfire raises $7 million for brain surgery like AI observability platform. I couldn't find anything about who Goodfire it is. I did a search for Goodfire and AI and nothing really came up. So I guess they're kind of stealthy for now. Wasn't Microsoft the first one to warn its employees to not put in critical company documents into OpenAI models? I don't know if they were first, but there were. I know a company I used to work for, Datadog, for a long time. If you used any of the AI models, I mean, it was a firing offense. So they've since changed that because I think they're using other things that they've been able to limit that. But I know that for a long time, maybe still I haven't looked into it for a while, there were a number of articles online for HR and people relation or whatever, like an HR department to come up with rules around for a company about here's what you're allowed to do with AI models or not, so that they have grounds to fire people if they are using things they shouldn't be using. At Datadog, when I was there, there was every now and then, if there was a product that was, even if it was popular for, all the employees, if it had a security issue, we would get an email saying, okay, if you're using this, well, they knew who was using different tools. You're using this, you need to stop. If you continue to use it, there'll be a discussion. Basically, you will be let go. And so I remember seeing that with, what was it? Grammarly. Basically, they refused to answer questions about security questions. And so Datadog said, fine, no more Grammarly. It's company wide. Maybe that's changed since then, but that happens with large companies. Anyway, how are we doing? Can you use local models and not get fired? Depends on your company's policies, I guess. Is there any reason they should be that a human resources department should be upset? No, because with all the local, especially if you're using Olama, I don't know about other platforms, but if you're using Olama and you ask a question, there is no way for that question or the answer to go back into the model. I know with anything LLM, they're offering that where you can take all the questions that you've asked it, and then for a fee, it's like $250, it will fine tune the model on some other platform, and then you'll have your new model based on all the things that you've shared with it so far. Seems a little bit something that's useful for individuals definitely scary if it's a company that's using it. Having secured instances is very important for some businesses, like law and accounting. Client information getting into the wild would be a major ethical problem. Yeah, totally. If and there was a problem with, oh, who was it? There was a country like that said you've got to change or you're not. I think it was Italy, because there was this was again last year, probably early to mid year. Italy, there were citizens that were finding personal information about other Italians. I think it was Italy. Other Italians that were in the ChatGPT. They were able to find out information, and the Italian government said, "Hey, that is not allowed." And I think they basically threatened, we're gonna block you from this country unless you fix it." Again, I think it was Italy. Yeah. Um, Fine tuning on another platform is sketchy. Yeah, yeah, that seemed really weird. I don't know. I don't know enough about why. I mean, I think a lot of people are probably a lot of people are reaching out to the guy who writes Anything LM, saying, "How do I fine tune?" Because it's I get that question a lot too. How do you fine tune? And for now, it's still a rough process. It still requires you to be, if not a full developer, at least open to running code, usually in a notebook, which is like the worst way to run Python. But anyway, you have to run it in a notebook, and you'll get error messages, and now it's up to you to figure out why you get these error messages. And so it's still really a developer process to fine tune. And so on the plus side, they've come up with a way that makes it really easy to take your content, your questions and answers, and as well as your documents and other things, and then fine tune that. But fine tuning is a computationally expensive process, and so they've partnered with someone, I don't know who, to run that process. And apparently, once that system gets it, it's like a 30-minute process, and then you've got your fine-tuned model. It's a flat rate of $250. I would assume that's. I can't say it's definitely to raise money but it definitely would have that effect. I don't know how much his cost is, or it's an interesting idea to because often people don't have the resources to run that fine tune themselves. This was just funny. It has nothing to do with AI. CrowdStrike, you might have heard of CrowdStrike. Not that long ago, they pushed a fix or pushed an update to all machines, like all Windows machines, I don't know, in the world that were signed up to CrowdStrike, and it took down so much, so much. And in fact, I went down to the Olama team paid my airfare to go down to San Francisco to be at the birthday celebration, and CrowdStrike happened that night or the next morning, and my flight on Delta back to Seattle got canceled, and I could come back the next day. So I definitely remember CrowdStrike. And so at DEF CON, there was they gave an award to most epic fail. I don't think audio comes through on here. Maybe it does. But this guy shows up. Oh, an award shows up. And this guy starts to say, "This is not the award I definitely want to get, but he's president of CrowdStrike, so he accepted the award." But it was nice. He basically said, when bad things happen, it's important for companies to acknowledge what they did and know that they did it wrong, and try to improve. That definitely wasn't his first. I mean, his first email that went out, or tweet, or whatever it was that went out, definitely wasn't didn't have that tone. Definitely felt like it was somebody else's fault. But this was a. If you could probably find this, I'll make sure that all the links are in the description for this video when I post it. I'll post the cleaned up version. Okay, so there was also this drag and drop coding environment from Self Machines, which looked interesting. Definitely looks rough. I have not played with it, but can I zoom in a bit? It totally looks really rough and not pleasant to use, and very detailed. This is for complicated deep learning processing pipelines. Probably not for most of what viewers of my channel would care about. But I thought it was, there are so many of these drag and drop GUI application builders for AI. I did a video on Diffy, although in the original video, I said Diffie the entire time, and I went through and recorded my voice saying Diffy in those different contexts and dubbing it back in so that I say Diffy. But there's a lot of other great ones. There's Rivet. There's one that a lot of people like, Flowise. There's NAN. NAN has some really cool things, and there'll probably be some videos about that coming soon. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I found some interesting GitHub repos that I thought were fun, like Bark. Bark, it comes from the folks at Suno. Suno does a text to music site where you can put in a description of the kind of song that you want to generate, and it will generate that song. There was actually a podcast pretty recently that I was listening to about how bad the songs were from all these different, not just Suno, but all the platforms, or how dead on a copy of the source music they were. It was either or. But this looks interesting. It's a Python project. It hasn't been updated really in a year, although the README was updated. I don't know why this is trending now, but I think I saw it on trending repos on GitHub. But it basically lets you do, here's some speech, here's some text, and it will generate the audio from it. And again, I don't know if audio is coming through, but I mean, that laugh is amazing. So if that didn't come through, then look at the link afterwards, and you'll be able to hear. I mean, it sounded like this real person and with a real laugh. That was pretty interesting. So it looks like it's just you're not able to do it off of your own voice. Oh, no audio. Sorry. I'll figure that out next time. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then there was Unstract, another no-code platform. Unstract, which will look pretty interesting. To launch APIs and ETL pipelines. Sure, I accept. So you're able to handle a lot of document formats and generate text, from this complicated form to a nice JSON blob. So it looked like a pretty interesting tool. It is unclear if this is. Oh no, you're using not just yeah, you're not just using OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, but you're also able to use Olama. So that looks like a really interesting tool for taking, I guess, unstruct is taking unstructured documents and converting them into usable JSON, which is pretty interesting. I remember having a process that would take like my Amex bill each month and automatically pull out some information from it using what was I using? DevonThink on the Mac, and it was always a bit of a kludgy process. It was a combination of DevonThink and a traditional OCR tool, and what was it? But what's the tool I use? There's a tool I use for it's like Butler. No, it's not Butler. It's Alf. No, not Alfred. Oh God, what's this thing called? Um, has a broom for an icon. Oh wow. Oh, there it is. What is it? Hazel. So a combination of Hazel and DevonThink and some traditional OCR to pull out information from my Amex bill or from my ABN AMRO bill or from my, also, this is back when I lived in the Netherlands. So anyway, this looked pretty cool. Definitely something worth checking out maybe in a future video. What else did I have? Companion. Companion was an interesting idea for a Discord bot that, again, will let you use, I think it would let you use Olama. There's instructions for using Olama in here somewhere. Down somewhere. Yeah. So you can use Olama, but it's got different personalities that you can use to react to Discord content automatically, which looked really cool. And then was there one other? Oh, yes. Okay. There are a couple others. I'm going kind of long now, so I'm just going to move on to this last thing, which is so cool. This is, oh my God, this is such an interesting visualization. So let me open up this website. I'm going to maximize this and get rid of here. So this is a tool that explains how transformers work in LLMs. And so you can provide an example. Data visualization empowers users to create, oh no, data visualization empowers users to, and then how does it figure out the next word? And so there's this embedding process, and as you hover over, it's showing you all the things that it's figuring out, and how it figures out the QKV weights, the query, the key, and the value weights for each of the words, and then hand that off. There's the attention matrix that gets created. There was a problem with this. I submitted an issue and it was fixed within, I don't know, 6 hours or so, which was pretty cool. And we get to see a little bit more about how it uses, the softmax to create the probabilities, and then end up with those probabilities at the end. And then as you adjust the temperature, you can see how the next word changes. So let's stick it at 1. And now it says, data visualization empowers users to visualize. No, that's not very, so let's change this back down to create. Okay, so it's going to choose create, and now I can generate again, and it figures out, okay, now with to create, and what's the next word? To create a, and now let's figure out the next word. And so this is what happens in your, when you use Olama to create each word. Of course, it's a lot faster because it's got access to the GPU, and this is just all in the browser. But this is amazing. Just such an amazing visualization as to what's going on as the model figures out the next word and the next word and the next word and the next word. So this on its own is pretty cool. Although there are a lot of parts of this that are confusing. I don't know what a lot of this means. But you scroll down and it goes into detail about. Now, I wish this was easier to read as you're looking at the image. You really need to have like two windows open. But now you can go through and see, embedding, what's happening during embedding and all the stages of embedding. Here's what's happening in the transformer block. Here's how it's working. Mask self-attention. Here's what all that does. What is the attention score and the masking and the softmax. And then the output probabilities. It goes into a lot of great detail and maybe doesn't answer all the questions I have about how this stuff actually works, but it goes further than anything else I've ever seen. And then advanced features, interactive features. It's got a video that is garbage, but I think I need to make my own video. It's not. It just basically, it does what I did minus my voice. And so there's no voice in it. It's just heard the author kind of hovering over all the different pieces with music in the background. So it's not very useful. But it is super cool. Super cool. Amazing. Amazing visualization. And I must have spent like an hour looking at this morning, and now I just want to look at it some more. And you can come up with all sorts of things. Let's just try. A llama starts dancing in a disco club, and generate. And the next thing you oh, looks like we can only you can only enter up to 12 words. So I guess it gets really hard for the system to calculate everything beyond that. But anyway, that I got such a kick out of seeing this. Okay, so let's go back to turn off sharing. Stop sharing. Okay. And yeah. So that's my news. I filled up pretty much an hour and 5 minutes of newsy kind of things. Was this interesting? Is this something I should do? It's an experiment. I might try it out if I remember to try it out the next few days. I'm gonna try it out and see, because there's always new stuff that's coming out, and it would be fun to cover it and to. It forces myself to look at it. I think I need to do a little bit more reading ahead of time, so I have a little bit more interesting context that I can add to the discussion. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Like the quick snapshot of AI news. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. So this was fun. Looks like I'm totally out of focus. Or it's just splotchy. There's so much news. Anyone who can help focus it is a bonus for us trying to follow it. Yeah. I'm definitely not looking at all the best news sources. I need to start figuring that out myself. And I need to come up with a better setup here. My setup is all janky. But I'll fix that soon. Let's see. All right. Well, we've been going at this for about an hour. I'm going to sign off. I need to finish up a video. I've got a video that's coming out. What am I talking about in this video? I just finished it last night. What did I can't remember what I talked about. Oh. It was a response to, um, there was a question in the Discord last week. And I think the original question is from long before, but people pile in every now and then in the help area about. I think it was something like, why is the API slower than the CLI? And the answer is, it's not. It can't be. There's no way that can be, because the CLI uses the same API that you use, and so it's mostly a misunderstanding of how to work with the API, and so I just go through. Here's why it looks like it's slower, and it's mostly about streaming, about how the CLI works, and the fact that it loads the model before it drops you into the REPL. So there's a number of different things that happen when using the API versus CLI, and so I just kind of discuss it. It's a shorter video. It's probably about 4 minutes long, but I tend not to just fluff up videos to make them longer, although I think some other people might do that. Yeah. Let's see. You could turn this into a couple of days a week newsletter as well. Count me in. Yeah. Yeah, so I have a newsletter. I think I mentioned it a few times. At the end of most videos, I used to mention it, and I'm not saying that as much at the end, but it's always in the description. And I put out one newsletter, because actually a former colleague of mine at Datadog, he had a newsletter and then had a video about, here's how wonderful it is to do a newsletter. And I was like inspired, and I did it, and then I never did it again. I think it's been like 3 months since I posted last. But it's hard to remember and hard to figure out, well, what do I talk about? And I thought that this might be a good way to, find what are the most interesting news stories of the day, of the last 24 hours. And then I'll have 7 of those in a week, and can find the best ones and then write a little blurb about each one. So I think this is the beginning of a content strategy, something like that. I was watching a podcast with the Morning Brew guys, and they were discussing how newsletters on AI is the trend no one has caught on. I will start the trend. Oh, yes. Cool. That's great. That's super interesting. Brew guys. Morning Brew guy. Who's Morning Brew guys? I don't know that. Is it worth watching? Let's see. I think that's it. Comfy UI is gaining popularity in India recently. Yeah, I played around with Comfy UI, but not more than super brief, and watching 1 or 2 videos and thinking, I'll do this later. I still haven't found anything that, even the examples I've seen out of Comfy UI, I haven't seen anything that says, okay, this is the reason why I need to stop my whatever $10 a month with Midjourney. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thanks to you so much for being here. And we'll see you. This morning I had a hard time starting the stream, but I'm going to try to come up with a time, and I'll do that time. I don't know what time it's going to be. But it'll be tomorrow morning. Maybe 10, 9, 10, 9:30, 10:30. Yeah, sometime. Oh, of course, I'm in Seattle, which, of course, is not the center of the world. So whatever that is for you. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Morning Brew is a newsletter on finance. Finance. I'm definitely not going to watch that. But thank you. And these guys cashed out with $75 million recently just with the news. Well, maybe I do like finance. All right. Thank you. Thank you. It looks like Jade, my dog, wants to go for a walk, so I better go. Thanks so much again for being here. Bye. Should I stop here? I'm going to stop here.